This is a Louie Tee Network exclusive.
Who else could it be but me, your me, Louie Tee? Welcome. You are in the lab room, of course. I'm your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me on the 2016 NFL Draft Prospects 101 series. Your guide, some of the biggest and hottest names in the 2016 NFL Draft. We're talking quarterbacks. We make this full circle back to the position that we started with. And I told you I wanted to come back and attack a couple of more quarterbacks in this draft because I think the misconception and that the quarterback position is top heavy and that you're going to get the two that are going to go 1-2 and then everybody else is a wild card in this draft. I think you could actually find 6, possibly up to as many as 7 starters out of this draft class when it's all said and done. Again, all about fit, destination, where they land, and how their NFL careers all kind of take shape. But when you look at the top 5, and I call them the top 5 of Carson Wentz, Jared Goff, Connor Cook, Paxton Lynch, and Christian Hackenberg, there's 2 guys on the outside of that group looking in, and you think to yourself, why can't these guys get a shot? And the guy that I think is the biggest wild card of them all, because of all the skill sets that he has and all of the actual measurables that he possesses, is the Ohio State University's Cardale Jones. This is a guy that I look at and I see so much potential in him. And I say if he can just find the right home with the right coaching staff that believes in him and will give him an opportunity to succeed, I think if he has a chance to mature with the position and grow while watching someone else do it at a high level, like in Arizona or somewhere like that, the sky could be the limit for Cardale Jones. Let's talk about Cardale Jones and what he brings to the table. First and foremost, size is the first pro. 6'5", 253 pounds. This guy is massive. He reminds me a lot of, and he's a much bigger Dante Culpepper, but in terms of arm strength and mobility, Culpepper wasn't the fastest guy, but he could move. He had a huge arm. We remember the bombs he used to throw to Randy Moss. I see Cardale Jones as a bigger version of Dante Culpepper in that sense. A guy that is kind of just big, physical. You remember Dante Culpepper was a bigger quarterback, very thick in size, hard to bring down, could run, was mobile, and had the huge arm. Cardale Jones, a lot of the same characteristics, a lot taller at 6'5", but big guy, hard to bring down, big arm, and very athletic for his size. Speaking of which, athleticism is the next pro. 4'8", 140 is what he ran at the combine. Remember, he blew a hamstring there, and so he pulled up lane, didn't do any of the on-the-field drills at the combine. But you watch the tape, you see him. He's not a guy that's going to wow you with his athleticism, but for his size, he's one of those guys like a Derrick Henry. When he builds up speed, if you give him enough space, and he gets to take about 5 or 6 steps, and he gets to top speed, he can get moving, and he can become a hard guy to bring down. And we saw in the national championship game 2 years ago versus Oregon that he was a load in that game, dragging defenders, running guys over, picking up first down. He's a big physical guy with the football in his hands, and when he starts running, he can become a tough guy to bring down to the ground. Arm strength, though, to me is the one thing that kind of separates him from a lot of these quarterbacks in this draft. And you got some guys with some really strong arms in this draft class. You know, Carson Wentz is right up there if you're talking arm strength, but no one in this draft class has a stronger arm than Cardale Jones. And that includes a guy like Carson Wentz. No one's arm at the quarterback position is stronger in this draft than Cardale Jones. He has a cannon. That's why they call him 12 gauge, which is to me one of the best nicknames in all of this draft. The guy can sling it, okay? I think I saw a clip where he was at the goal line, and I think this might have been like, you know, in the spring practices or whatever with Ohio State. He lined up at the goal line and let it rip and threw it about 73 yards. I mean, the guy has a rifle. So arm strength, unquestioned, he has it in spades. Pocket manipulation. This is something that you don't talk about a lot because he played in a spread offense, and a lot of times with these guys, you don't see a lot of pocket manipulation, but that's the one thing I was impressed with, especially going back to 2014 when he went on that magical run and led Ohio State to the national championship. his pocket manipulation against Wisconsin in that Big Ten championship game. You saw more pocket manipulation against Alabama and eventually against Oregon. Him sliding up and creating just a little bit more time for himself to throw the football down the field. Magnificent, okay? You didn't see it as much in 2015 when he got a chance to start, and I thought that he let a little bit of the success of 14 get to his head, and he started talking about things and being a little bit immature, and I don't think he was ready for the spotlight. I think he was more of a guy that was thrusted into that position, and so he kind of just took everything as it came to him in 2014. He wasn't expecting the opportunity, but it came, and he just went with the flow. I thought he was a guy that felt entitled in 2015. He didn't get the same drive and determination and effort out of Cardale Jones and the same consistency that you got out of him, because I guess the expectations weren't as great, but they heightened in 2015 after what he had done in 2014, and he just didn't get the same player. But we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But one thing is for sure, he manipulated the pocket in 2014 beautifully, and I think that's something that he can do at the next level, because there is evidence of him doing that consistently in 2014. Poise, that's another thing you get out of Cardale Jones. You say what you want about him off the field, you say what you want about him even in 2015, but there is a poise factor to Cardale Jones that cannot be denied. When you get thrusted into the game on a team that is looking to win a national championship late in the season, literally came in the second half of the Michigan game and had to win that game to get them into the Big Ten championship, go out, smoke Wisconsin and beat the brakes off of them. You go up against a stacked Alabama team, beat them, and then you turn around and beat Marcus Mariota and the Oregon Ducks in the national championship. To do that, to go on that type of run, takes poise for a guy that hadn't played a snap all season long. And then the next year to come out, make some throws, make some plays, even though he wasn't consistent, he still won every game that he started. And so there's a poise element. Even on the field, there's some throws where he stares down the gun barrel. You look at that Wisconsin game in that Big Ten championship, there's a free runner coming right at him. He knows he's about to take a shot, stares down the gun barrel, and lets it rip about 50 yards down the field to Devin Smith for a touchdown. That's pretty much what you get out of Cardale Jones. It's a calming influence and poise in that pocket that I think he has that you can't teach. Either you have happy feet and you're anxious and you're nervous in the pocket, or you got poise, you're calm, and even if you're going to take a shot, you're ready to stand in and deliver the football, and I think Cardale Jones has that. Throws the football with touch. There's one particular play, and you see touch with this guy all the time. Just watch any game, pick one out. He'll make some throw at some point in that ball game with touch. But the one that stands out to me wasn't a deep ball, and he's got deep ball accuracy. Matter of fact, that's the next pro is beautiful deep ball. But there's a throw against Virginia Tech, first game of 2015, where Ezekiel Elliott is just going out on a little flare route to the flats, and he's beating a defender to the outside, but there's not a lot of room for error, okay? You know, there's not a great margin for error, and the defender is in the way of the throwing lane, so he's got to put the football over that defender. Can't throw it on the line, got to put some touch over that defender and lay it out so that Ezekiel Elliott can run under the football, catch it, and get up the field, and that's exactly what he did. It's a beautiful throw. You can't throw it any better than that. And it was about a 5 to 7 yard throw. It wasn't the biggest gainer in the world, but what it showed was touch. With a lot of guys with strong arms, they lack touch. And like Cam Newton to me lacks touch. Colin Kaepernick to me lacks touch. Cardale Jones has feathery soft touch, and that, to me, that play is a microcosm of the touch that he possesses at the quarterback position. Talked about beautiful deep balls. You saw it with Devin Smith in 2014, probably on its best display there when he was just throwing deep balls left and right to him at the end of that 2014 run. But he is a guy that can lay it out there and allow receivers to run under it. Again, with that big arm, it's not a problem for him to flick the wrist. Look at the flick of the wrist, let it fly, and it'll get to that receiver down the field. Escapability, play extender. That's the next pro. He's a big guy, much like a Ben Roethlisberger in this sense, where it's just hard to bring him down. He's one of those guys that he'll duck and he'll just kind of shrug a guy off. If you're looking to get him down, I remember hearing a lot of coaches say, hey, look, we got to go at his legs. Don't go upper body on this guy, because if you do, he's going to flick you off and it's going to be hard for you to get him down on the ground. So you see a lot of guys going after his knees and his legs, but that's out of necessity. This is a big man we're talking about that has the ability to extend plays because of how big he is, and being able to discard defenders and keep plays alive, extend them. You'll see a couple of big plays down the field because he's able to extend the play and get the football down the field. So that's something that you also get with Cardale Jones, is the ability to not only escape the pocket to run, but extend the play to throw the football down the field. He's a winner, last but not least. 11-0 in his career at Ohio State as a starter. Never lost a football game, including that magical run at the end of 2014. And I already listed the teams that he beat. Wisconsin smoked them in the Big Ten championship game. You go on to the playoffs. He beats Alabama, and then after that beats Oregon. It was just a magnificent run by Cardale Jones. Very, very good run in terms of just being a third-string quarterback is hard in itself, but just to come in a situation that's tough like that and to win, very, very clutch, if you ask me. So he's a winner, okay? Those are all the pros. Let's go to some of the cons. Spread offense and terminology is the first con. Look, we talk about this, we harp about this every year. It is what it is. Guys are coming from spread offenses now. I don't want to spend too much time on this because we already know what it is. You come from a spread offense, you're not under center a lot, you're going to have to learn terminology. Everybody's looking to the sideline, trying to figure out what the play is, and they're holding up cards and numbers and faces and all kinds of stuff. Look, he's going to have to learn terminology, he's going to have to learn protections and how to set them and all of those things. And so that's not something that should surprise anybody. I'm not going to harp on that. But he's going to have to learn terminology. He's going to have to learn how to play in a traditional offense. Those are all things that we expect coming out of a spread offense. Lack of experience. That's more of a bigger issue than the spread offense. Only 11 starts at Ohio State, and when you look at what happened in 2015, he was given the keys to the car. Early on in the season, Urban Meyer said, hey, you won us a national championship last year. You get first crack, first dibs at being the starter of this football team, and he could not solidify the starting QB job. It was taken back over and given back to JT Barrett, and they did the whole switching in and out thing. I'm not a huge fan of that, but he had another opportunity. JT Barrett gets suspended for a game, and against Minnesota, he was underwhelming. And so JT Barrett gets his job back and never relinquishes that. And so only 11 starts, even though he won every single one of them. That's not a lot of experience for Cardale Jones. So there's a lot of growth still necessary for him as a quarterback, just off of lack of experience. So that is definitely a con for him. Accuracy and consistency is the next con. Look, I think the biggest reason why he didn't keep the job at Ohio State, one, Urban Meyer wanted a guy that was a little bit more mobile, because what you lose with Cardale Jones in the starting lineup, which he had in spades when Braxton Miller was the quarterback, and even JT Barrett, is a little bit more athleticism and speed at the quarterback position. Even though, Cardale Jones was still getting 90 and 80 and, 75 yards rushing just about every game, it was harder to come by because of the lack of explosiveness with him as a runner. And so it was harder for Ezekiel Elliott to have lanes because teams didn't respect Cardale Jones as a runner as much as they did JT Barrett and even Braxton Miller. So that was part of the reason. But the bigger issue was, hey, if you're going to play, and I can deal with the lack of rushing and all of that stuff from the quarterback, but you got to be more accurate. That's why you're in there, because you're a better passer of the football than JT Barrett. You're a better thrower of the football than Braxton Miller. I need you to be in there, being accurate with the football and giving our playmakers a chance to catch the football and run with it. And he wasn't doing it. So accuracy is a problem. Ball handling, if you watch the Gruden camp, you saw all the snaps go through his hands and all of those things. I think sometimes I talked about the extending of plays being a really good pro for him, but that could be a con as well, because a lot of times he would take unnecessary sacks. He would be running around, he'd discard a guy, and then another defender would come and he'd lose 11 yards on a play. Or he'd be in a pocket, he wants to make something happen, he's holding on to the ball, holding on. Next somebody comes from behind, hits him, ball comes out, it's a fumble. So that extending the play could be a gift and a curse. And so I think you get inconsistencies out of Cardale Jones, which drives you nuts. And I think that was one of the problems at Ohio State for him, was the lack of accuracy and just the inconsistencies you got with him from week to week. And so you would get great Cardale, then you would get good Cardale, and then you could get bad Cardale on any given day. And so I think that's what drove Urban Meyer crazy and led him to go back to JT Barrett. Maturity, and that's the final kind, and we all know about the tweet that he sent out that sent shockwaves through the program. Why are we at school? You know, why do we have to go to school? We didn't come here to play school, we came to play football. And again, he realizes that you can't say things like that, but again, that was all part of that 2014 going to his head. Like I said, this was a guy that came out of nowhere essentially, got the job late in the season due to injuries, and ran with that opportunity, won a national championship. It all came so fast, he started to do things that were out of character for him early on in his Ohio State career, because now the spotlight had been cast upon him, and you saw how he reacted to that. He started to say things, do things, react in different ways, and so that was a maturity issue, and I think he's cleaned up a lot of that and realizes, man, I made some mistakes along the way. Hopefully that's behind him now, and I think teams have talked to him about that, and I think he is in a better place mentally now, and so it's all about football for him, and I think he's going to get an opportunity with some team. Hopefully it's the right fit for him, because this guy is an immense talent. If he lands in the right spot, he could easily be one of the better quarterbacks of this entire draft class when it's all said and done. That's how talented Cardale Jones is. That's Cardale Jones and his 2016 NFL Draft Prospects 101 breakdown. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here in the lab room. Come back and join me as I continue to break down anything and everything in the National Football League. I'll see you next time, because I got more guys to break down. Come on back and join me as we get ever so close to the 2016 NFL Draft. See you next time. There's plenty more where that came from. While you're here, subscribe to the channel. If you want more Louie Tee, be sure to follow me on Twitter at @InTheLabRoom, or you can like the Facebook page at In the Lab Room. That's In the Lab Room on Facebook and at In the Lab Room on Twitter. Don't forget, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so.